Good morning. Welcome to episode 87 of the Driller Newscast, a weekly update on the news and stories impacting the drilling and water industry. I'm your host, Brock Yorty. We got through Thanksgiving. We got 1 week. We all should be traveling to Las Vegas for the National Groundwater Show and the International Ground Source Heat Pump Show, IXPA. Can't wait to be there. It's going to be an exciting week. So we need to get to work. That means this is going to be a nice, short, and sweet newscast. We're going to talk a little safety, and then we're going to talk about the Water System Council 2024 survey that is out right now that we need all of you drillers and professionals in the industry taking the time to go over to their website and taking that survey and making sure that the information that we put into this survey is smart, credible, and represents our industry appropriately. So let's get to it. This week in safety, it's time for us to get our heads centered. We have 1 week of November left. A lot of us are going to be at the big show following week, and it's almost the end of the year, which is the most wonderful time of the year. Lots going on, but it's time for us to check in with our people, start thinking about how the weather has changed, our slips, trips, and falls. Do we have cleats for our people that we're using now? How are we getting up and off the platforms? How are we climbing up to get to the rod box or in the back of the pump hoist or back of the pickup truck? These are all things we need to be thinking about. Beyond that, we need to be thinking about basic PPE. Now we're starting to put stocking caps under our hard hats. Is it fitting appropriately? Is it the right skull cap to have? These are things that we need to be checking into. Next, gloves. We have great cut level appropriate gloves that we should be using. However, now it's muddy, it's wet. Most of the time it's like that, but now we're cold. So all too often we end up finding these gloves in the front of the pump hoist, the truck, the rig, somewhere getting dried out, and we're handling tools and tripping out and doing all of these things that we should have our gloves to be safe and smart, but we don't. And we need to keep working because let's face it, we had this dang time change, and now it takes us an hour to get everything warmed up and ready to go. And then by 4 o'clock, we're starting to wrap up, we're starting to drain. Got these short days, not to mention we're all trying to get back home so we can get into that deer blind and see if we can't see something before dark. So there's a lot going on there, and we need to be thinking about, we can't be jumping steps. We can't be taking shortcuts. We right now need to be utilizing the stop work authority more than ever. And this is something very important for our teams, and we've talked about it, but what is your standard operating procedures? And does everybody know that they can say stop? Because your Ring doorbell is going off nonstop because there's packages showing up and now we're distracted. Or I want to get home because I've seen this big buck on the trail cam. Got to get into this blind. We got this long, hard week, and then we're heading to the big shows that we got to work hours. We got to make sure we have everything set up. And we're fatigued, cutting corners, repetitive stress. We're doing things to our backs that's not appropriate. So company owners, drillers, foremans, head pump setter, get your team huddled up. Start thinking about all of the things that can impact our most wonderful time of the year when somebody is injured. Be smart, be calculated, and make sure we're doing the steps appropriately. We have the right PPE and the right tools. And if we don't, we say stop and we get recentered because we got some downtime that we need to take with our families, Christmas parties, holiday parties, everything that is this end of the year, celebrating that last day before we jump into 2024 and we start it all over again. So let's be smart. Just had a great couple day break, unless we had that out of water, which happens, but let's get our teams thinking about it's the end of the fourth quarter. We got 1 month, and really, what do we got? 2 weeks, and then it's just going to be emergency calls and being smart and calculated on where we are and how we're working. Go out and be safe. Our news and our feature this week are one and the same, and that is the launch of the Water Systems Council State of the Industry 2024 report. This is the third report, and this is a big deal, industry, because right now we're about to be able to see some major trends because they have stated that 90% of the questions are the same. And we've had a lot of infrastructure law money and Inflation Reduction Act money pumped into our industry that is influencing our businesses, which then allow our manufacturers to do more R&D, to ramp up, to understand the demands. You know, we have to understand that there's only 23 million private water wells. Less than 15% of the voting population has a water well. We are a very proud industry and we know we're very important, but it is very important for us to be doing this survey appropriately. And I say that because as we look at the numbers, they're good numbers, but we need more of the industry taking time to do it. Last year, there was less than 600 drillers that took the survey. It was just under 900 total that took the survey. And so we need to step this up. So you need to jump over to the Water Systems Council and sign up. Or at the big show that we're going to be at in a week, head over to booth 175. Say hello to Margaret and Jesse. Ask Jesse some great legal water well stuff that's going on, because he is just a wealth of knowledge, and it's wonderful to have those discussions. And let's take a moment right now and jump into the results of last year and why it is so important for us as an industry to take the time to put our true business out there. It's a third-party firm that is taking all of this information and bringing it together. So it's confidential. But we need to make sure we're stating how many operational drill rigs we have within our business, how many full-time employees, how much revenue a year. This isn't like pencil whipping a well log so that your local competitors can't understand where the same good producing formation. We got to get better at that. We're groundwater professionals. We're not a bunch of diggers. And so let's jump into the 2023 survey. I'm going to highlight some things that we really need to be thinking about. So this survey is a big deal, everybody. And I wanted to make sure that I pulled up exactly the direct importance of what we saw. And that starts with, as we discuss our optimism for the industry. And in 2022, we had a great year coming out of COVID, and 2023. And now we're screaming this silliness of possibility of a recession. And that's not our industry right now. We have geothermal booming. We have the federal infrastructure law. There's more road building, dewatering, monitoring wells, and water wells to be installed. It is very important for us to understand where our business is. Last year, 890 individuals took the survey, which represented over 550 companies. 577 of those were contractors. The rest were suppliers. That's very important for us to think about. If we look at representation, the states that had the greatest degree of influence, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Georgia, and we know Georgia's a strong groundwater state, as they all came together to help pass that law with their executive director of the Georgia Groundwater Professionals, Tucker, making it that anybody that has over 1 acre of land can have a private water well. It's a big deal. Texas, California, those are our big states that represented. As we look at it, the national average for water well contractor has 13 employees, according to the 2023 survey, with about $2.4 million in revenue a year. And I want you to think about that industry. Is that the number that your business is striving for? Are you doing better than that? With us being 10,000 plus members of the National Groundwater Association, and you look at your state associations, we have until December 20th to take this survey. And it's very important that we all get out and take it. And if I look at the country as it's broken down, and sign up right now and get the 2023 results, and go right then and take the 2024 survey so we can have those. But as I look at the Midwest, it says the average was 111 wells drilled by a contractor. Geothermal wells, 47. Average revenue, $2.3 million. Northeast, average revenue, 3.6. Southeast, average revenue, 2.1. And then as I look at the Western United States and the Northwest, both, under $2.5 million average revenue. That doesn't seem right, industry. We know what we're doing. Yes, there's pipelines going on, but we are producing a lot of work. We see great North American rig manufacturers that are booked out almost through 2024 right now. We're buying new rigs. We're investing in the industry. We're professionally developing. We're about to celebrate this stuff at the National Groundwater Association and IGSPA. But we need to be representing ourselves through this State of the Industry survey. And I can't stress it enough that we need good, credible information. It says the average drilling company has 2.9 rigs and 2.3 pump trucks, which they state as derrick trucks. Is that 2.9 rigs accurate? We need to be able to give great companies like VersaDrill and DrillMax and Jeffco and Epiroc and Rich Drill. We need to be able to give them the right information so they know what to ramp up for 2024. The same with our great pump manufacturers and tank manufacturers. They're looking at this survey to understand this is our voice. This is no different than being at the state association, having that discussion with our regulators and all of the legislation that's going on, why we talk so much about the groundwater compacts that are out there from the Colorado River to the Great Lakes. This survey is very important to us. And I can't stress enough. I want you to go listen to Margaret at the National Groundwater Conference as she talks about this. And I also want you to think about the Groundwater Pro program that's coming out by the NGWA. We very much need to be thinking, as good of drillers and reactionary as we are we good business individuals? Are we good marketers for the industry? We are not diggers. We are groundwater professional and drilling professionals. And it is very important for us to think about this. And beyond that, I want you to think about, how do we inspire a new generation as they take a look at this, as they're coming out of Fleming College Resource Drilling School, or any of the hydrogeological field camps like Western Michigan universities, they get their hands on this survey and they're wondering, do I go mining? Do I go oil and gas? Do I go hot rock geothermal? Do I go geotechnical? Or do I invest myself in industrial drilling, geothermal, groundwater, cathotic? That's the importance of this report. And we have great individuals such as Jeff Williams with Spafford and Chauncey, John Boyette, Boyette Well and Septic. We have plenty of individuals that have been quoted, that have said this is important for us to get done. And we have the same amount of manufacturers that are also saying, please take the time. We're helping fund this because it is important. So that's my soapbox. We've come back from Thanksgiving. In a week, we're going to be at the National Groundwater Conference, and we can all share these discussions. Head over to booth 175, talk with Margaret, talk with Jesse Richardson. So much fun. I hope to catch up with them again. Margaret was just at the Navajo Nation looking at the tribal waters and what's happening there. We're still talking about that from the Supreme Court of the Navajo Nation versus the United States and the state of Arizona. There's plenty of newsworthy things happening here. So head over there, and by taking the survey, you get signed up to win a Visa gift card or a drone. So there's another incentive to it. But I'll tell you what, the biggest incentive is representing our industry appropriately for one last piece here. And that is, we see right now the United States Department of Agriculture putting money into developing the next generation. And as they start distributing that money, and NGWA is advocating for it, and we're advocating for our industry, do they start looking at the fact that 85% of the population needs water and wastewater operators at water facilities? And we know that 88% of that population is operated by 90% of one major water operator. So these are things we need to think about as we jump into it. Yes, there's a lot of rural water utility systems out there, but when we slice it down, water and wastewater operators, my old company Veolia, they have Veolia University to professionally develop those young men and women and individuals to get them there. What are we going to do? We got to advocate for NGWA University. We got to advocate for ourselves, and we do that through good, credible information into this survey so that our industry knows that we're growing, we're optimistic, and that 2024 is going to be a stellar year. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for joining us for episode 87 of the Driller Newscast. Check out thedriller.com. Think about what talks you're going to be at NGWA, because that's my next discussion, is going to be episode 88. As you're traveling into the big show, who are you going to see? Who are you going to professionally develop with? I got Marvin Glockfelty out there doing several great classes. We have Johnson Screens. We have pump manufacturers. Good friend of mine, Scott Byfield, will be doing a talk for Drumfuss. There's so many things. I will be talking about building blocks for developing new drillers and a safety discussion. Yes, Brock, it seems like all I talk about is safety. We're going to talk about workman comp claims and the impact to a legacy business that they can have, because you really need to start thinking about repetitive stress and the damage we're doing to ourselves and our employees, and how that can be a long-lasting impact to our business. So jump over to ngwa.com and get in, take a look at the schedule, download the app, go to igspa.com, get the schedule, decide where you're going to be. I highly suggest that you take some time and you jump over to the IGSPA Pavilion and you talk geothermal. Go see the folks at Climate Control Group. go see everybody over there and have a discussion with them about what's happening with ground source geothermal and how great groundwater professionals can be installing these on residential, light commercial, medium commercial, up to big projects. There's so much going on there that we need to be thinking about it. It's happening so much right now that Wednesday of the National Groundwater Show, we will be doing a newscast live at the Climate Control Group booth where we're going to talk geothermal projects. We're going to talk about the investment into the geothermal industry with some great drilling veterans, and we're going to talk about drilling innovations. So make sure you head over there, ask some great questions, and let's professionally develop together. Hop over to Cowboy Christmas, maybe buy some presents, and then let's wrap up 2023 with a bang. Thanks, everybody.